Hey guys, Alex with Bay Cities Construction here. Tonight's episode, we've got Josie Balzano from Keller Williams. Say hi, Josephine, also known as Josie to her friends. Hey, we're going to be talking about the PV Peninsula market, the home real estate market. Talking about a little bit of construction, a little bit of what the real estate market conditions are. We'll look at 2022, what Josie's forecast is for next year, and Josie's going to be covering some tips. And at the end, we've got the regular Q&A. Let's get started. Josie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your career, how you got started in real estate and all that kind of cool stuff so that people get to know you a little bit.
Well, thanks for having me, Alex. A little bit about myself. My career began in finance. I have a degree in finance with a specialization in real estate and law. And I worked as a controller in kind of mid-sized, privately owned companies.
Cool.
And I did that for about 20 years. And then I decided that I was going to utilize my real estate license that I had gotten probably 10 years prior to that. Mm-hmm. I always knew that I was going to fall into this at some point. And with my life and my family, my career really kind of led the way for that when I decided that I no longer wanted to work for someone and I no longer wanted to be in an office environment managing people from 7 to 7. But, you know, obviously as an entrepreneur, you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Sometimes.
But the flexibility of that and the decision making I've been able to have with my own family has really helped me. And I've always had a love of real estate. So that's how I fell into it.
Cool. Well, you definitely are working in a really cool market with pretty nice people. I've been down here in the South Bay for a long time, and I really enjoy working this. You know, I do construction obviously, and
right.
I really enjoy working this market. The owners and stuff that live here are really cool to work with.
Well, I'm a South Bay kid, born and raised. My parents, their first home was in Torrance, and then we moved to Harbor City, and I actually ended up living in that house for 28 years because I bought the house from my parents. I was very, very lucky to be able to do that. My parents are still here in Torrance, just in Walteria, and we were able to sell that house like 30 days before the economy dropped in 2008 in Harbor City and buy our first house in PV.
Wow.
So we've been in PV since then. I've raised 3 children in PV. And I've got a lot of insight in regards to the South Bay as a whole because I've really never left. I went to Cal State Long Beach, so even through my college years, I was still a South Bay kid.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of insight to what's been happening. I'm going to age myself for the past 47 years in the South Bay in regards to areas. I know a lot of little nooks that a lot of other realtors have no idea because I grew up with kids that lived there or their parents lived there. I went to their grandparents' house. There's so many different areas in the South Bay that I think I'm able to bring to clients, especially for clients who are not familiar with other areas, that I have a little insight in.
No, 100%. I think there's a lot of value to that. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of these listings that you, what is in your mind when you look at the market up there in PV. What's like we have a couple of examples here of what you consider your typical listings and maybe some of the recent sales. So maybe let's talk a little bit about Gran Via Altamira.
Yeah, so Gran Via Altamira, that's my most recent listing. It's amazing. Please, for all other realtors out there, I've worked up to a listing like this. We're currently listed at $6 million. It's a 5,500 square foot house on a huge lot. It's an executive home. It's 5 bedrooms plus an office plus a bonus room. It's got a regulation college and professional basketball court in the back. It's really a beautiful, beautiful home for someone who is looking to really live that Palos Verdes Estates lifestyle. The home underneath that, 28116 Golden Meadow Drive, was an incredible home down it's really like Golden Meadow is parallel to Via Castilla. So it's like the last street in Rancho Palos Verdes before it becomes Upper Lunada Bay.
Okay.
And this was a 4-bedroom, 2-bedroom house. Remember, prices have skyrocketed. So this home was actually listed at 1.6. There were offers that came in over $2 million on this house. I personally knew the realtor, and we had submitted a very good offer, and we didn't get selected because the offers were coming in just insane. The people who ended up going into escrow ended up backing out. And I was able to get my buyers into this house second time around, and they closed escrow at like 1.840. So they got a great price.
So by that time, the market had cooled.
People were starting to, I think, realize that the prices that were getting thrown out there were insane. I'm glad that has had some time to settle. A lot of that has to do with interest rates, and I know we're going to talk about that.
Right.
But that's just an example of the last 2 listings that I've done. But because I'm the type of agent that really only works with her sphere of influence, I only work with people that I know or referrals from people that I know. So I go all over the place. I had a really good friend of mine who had a family friend who lived in New Jersey, but they had a family home in Diamond Bar, and I sold that for them. My brother, I sold his house in Long Beach, and we bought a house in Montecito Heights, which is right by Pasadena Art Center. So I'm all over the place. I just sold a condo in Huntington Beach. So even though I live in Palos Verdes and my entire family is in the South Bay, I go wherever my friends and family need me to go. So I'm pretty familiar with Los Angeles, Orange County, and the Valley if I need to be.
Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Palos Verdes market. For those of you that are thinking about, basically what we're doing this podcast so that it's really tailored to either people that are already in the South Bay that maybe live in Torrance or Redondo. I live in Redondo, and are thinking about moving to PV or basically moving into the area. And there's definitely, when people are considering PV, the peninsula, Palos Verdes Peninsula, there's a lot of different neighborhoods in there, and there's a lot of different architectural style houses, right? So let's talk a little bit about some of the different neighborhoods and what you like about them. So what is your favorite area up in PV?
Well, I love the map that you're presenting for the viewers right now, because there are 16 different areas, and that comes with microclimates, that comes with demographics, that comes with lifestyles. I personally lived my first house in PV, as I stated, in 2008, was in Monte Malaga, and we lived there for 9 years. And Monte Malaga, the terrain of Monte Malaga, because you're over the marine layer cloud. Mm-hmm. So you're not socked in, but you get good heat, and you're all the way up at the top. So it commands some really spectacular views. That's where you look at Via del Monte, and you get the Queen's Necklace view. So you're also very close to the Peninsula Center from Monte Malaga. So if you need to get to the Peninsula Center, need to get your kids over to schools over there, it's really nice and convenient. The house where I live right now is in Lenata Bay, and it's a completely different lifestyle, and I love it. There's definitely a lot more people outside riding their bike and walking and running, and you can walk to coffee. You've got little restaurants in there.
So that section that you're talking about here, where is that?
So Monte Malaga is area 162, and Lenata Bay is area 160. I'm trying to see the screen. That's 160 and 162.
So here and here is what you're referring to.
So the pink areas is where I'm kind of describing. And then, if you go into and then let's continue with the pink. So you also have the Malaga Cove area. The Malaga Cove area is highly sought after a lot of times from people who are coming from Santa Monica, because it's right on the border of Redondo. So you know where the flags are, so that is
by City Hall.
Exactly. So
that's here. For folks viewing the map. If you can get a map view, that's this area right here.
Yes. So, and I'm kind of just going through Palos Verdes Estates right now.
Sure.
But with Malaga Cove, you've got the Malaga Cove Ranch Market, Yellow Vase, plus you're just a zip through into Redondo, and you've got all the restaurants at the village. And if you work in El Segundo or you need to get to the west side, a lot of people are looking to be closer to Malaga Cove as opposed to Lanada Bay or Monte Malaga.
So are you thinking that's maybe like a young professional family?
I don't know about young, only because of the prices that are being demanded.
Maybe mid-40s?
Absolutely. I would say executive types.
Okay.
Executives that work on the west side but are able to work from home, flex time, are definitely looking for Malaga Cove type area.
Okay.
There is an area like by Grays Lake in Rancho Palos Verdes, which is very close to Monte Malaga. That is a perfect spot for young families who can afford an entry price of 1.6 to $2 million for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. But like Flambeau Road, Grays Lake, they're wonderful homes there for beginning families that just want to kind of enter into the PV market, get their kids in the schools.
Right on. And so let's say let's look at this other part here, this other map here. So these are some of the architectural type houses. So let's talk a little bit out. So we're talking about price points now and kind of the demographics. If somebody, there are sections of the neighborhoods that are more architecturally significant, and some people want a new house. That's cool, and there's new houses up there.
Right.
But some people may like the idea of the old school ranch houses that you see all over the hill, and then some people are actual admirers of the mid-century modern houses like the Miracellina.
Beam, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about those neighborhoods and those houses.
So let's start with the middle with Rolling Hills because it's the easiest. So with Rolling Hills, that was founded by A.E. Hansen. He decided that in that style of rural living, all the houses were going to have a ranch style. It was all going to be white exteriors, and it was all going to be single levels. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't find a 50,000 square foot house in Rolling Hills, but that's because they've dug down. They've dug into the earth, and they've created basements. So Rolling Hills is the easiest architectural style to describe because there's only one style.
Okay.
Now, inside, you can do whatever you want to the inside of them, but the outside has to be the same style. With Mira Catalina, which is really close to Point Vicente, you have, Trump Golf Course, you've got Terranea, really beautiful views. You have a lot of people that are looking on that side as well as Marilest, who are doctors and attorneys. They need to get on the 110 freeway really fast. They need to get to hospitals or the LA courthouses. And the architectural style over on that side of the hill, it's really kind of mixed. As you're driving down PV Drive West and it turns into PV Drive South, you're going to find it's going to go from houses that are mid-century modern, kind of like, beach bungalowy type of homes. And then you've got these mansions, and they're all different styles. You have Mediterranean, you have Tuscan, you have kind of like a 1990s contemporary maybe style. All the homes are very magnificent. And one of the things I think that you'll find in all of the peninsula, other than if you're looking at the Trump homes that are new, you're not going to find a lot of newly built homes. That's just not what we have. You have people who have purchased homes and have completely demoed them and built new homes. And there are some people that are doing it to flip, but I find that most of the time it's owners, and they live in the house for a while and then they decide to sell it. Like my current listing on 1217 Grand Via Altamira. That home was built in 2016. I think it is one of the very few newer built homes on Grand Via Altamira.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think not as many investors have come in like you see in Manhattan Beach and even in Redondo?
I can absolutely answer that. It has a lot to do with our archery. It has a lot to do with the amount of time that it takes to actually go from cradle to grave and get that certificate of occupancy in order to live in that home. Most people need to understand that you need to kind of average 2 to 3 years. I think in Manhattan Beach and certain parts, even the Hollywood Hills, you can probably get a house done in a year and a half, depending on, what you have already done in regards to architecture and permits. In Palos Verdes Estates and Rancho isn't much faster. Just because they don't have an archery, it doesn't mean that it's that quick to go cradle to grave to build a home. It has a lot to do with neighborhood compatibilities. One of the reasons why Palos Verdes Estates is able to ask for such high prices is because of the archery, because the homes that are being built do have a reputation of being beautiful homes. They have certain rules, like we discussed. I don't remember if we were on camera or off, but we discussed some of the rules about the roofing in Palos Verdes Estates with a red tile roof. You've got modern homes that need to come in. That means that you need to put in a black slate roof, but that's very expensive. So a lot of people have, kind of understood that this is not a place that you come to flip quickly with just a bit of margin. This is something that if you're going to flip, you're going to do something amazing, like the Paseo La Crestas home that I was talking about. That's KAA designed and listed for $17 million on the bluff there inside of Monte Malaga.
Do you think that the velocity of homes, the velocity of transfer of homes is the same in PV as it is down here by the coast? Or do you think that we go through more homes?
I think that's an interesting question. I mean, I definitely think that you're not going to find a bunch of flippers on the peninsula, where you might find a good amount of people flipping homes in Manhattan Beach, and a lot of builders are, tomorrow probably, architectural design sign is all over Redondo and Manhattan Beach. Now they build homes in Palos Verdes, but what I've seen is they're building them for families. They're not building them for builders.
For business, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I've always found that to be the case. I've been down here in the South Bay for the last 10 years, maybe 11 years. And the markets are totally different. The buyers are different. The kind of the people that buy up on the hill are long, I think they're more long-term.
Right.
Like they've been working up to being able to afford to live up there for a while.
Or they were trying to move their kids there. Now, that doesn't mean that, people don't love the lifestyle of having kids in Hermosa or Redondo or Manhattan. It's just a different lifestyle on the hill. It's, I think, slower. Yeah. And just because you don't have the public around you, really, it's really just your neighbors.
Yeah, I think I think that's a very good point. The fact that Redondo or Hermosa, Manhattan Beach, there's a tourist element
absolutely
to the community,
100%.
Right? So that isn't so much the case there. I mean, maybe around the Trump golf course and stuff, you'll have some seasonal people, but it isn't like when you go to the cafes or the restaurants up there, it's really other people that live in the neighborhood.
100%. So one example of that is social media completely changed that for PV because people started posting hikes.
Right.
So next to St. John Fisher, we have an incredible trail that, goes down to the, beautiful views of the ocean, and people started posting that. And there are some really, really sought out for homes right at the end of Crenshaw. There's not that many of them. They're beautiful, and they're behind a gate, and there's I think around 8 or 10 homes there. And as social media started publicizing these beautiful trails, all these cars started coming in, and the neighbors just went insane and went to City Hall. And now there is really restricted parking, and you have to go online and get a parking ticket, to show that you have validation to be able to park there. So PV definitely does not really embrace that public atmosphere.
It's definitely a lot more private.
Yes.
If you want to live quieter, more private situation, that's the place.
We don't have a lot of retail. The only retail is the mall, up at the top of the hill, the Peninsula Center, which is great because now we have a Target and a Sephora and an Ulta and all that. We have an Ulta and a Old Navy, and then we have Terranea and Trump, and then you have the Malaga Cove Shopping Center, and you have the Lanada Bay Shopping Center. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not a lot of people from out of the area going up there. I've been up there. My kids like going to the movie theater up there.
We love the movie theater.
Yeah.
Regal is great. It used to be Krikorian. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's cool. Some people may not know this, but there's like 300 miles or something like, somebody told me something like that.
Trails.
Of horse trails. Yeah. So that goes from obviously a significant amount are in Rolling Hills Estates.
Yes, but a very large portion is also in Rolling Hills. And then just today, I was over by Narcissa, and they have trails and stables back there too. And then the Rolling Hills Estates one that I was talking about, where Chadwick is, right there on Crenshaw and Palos Verdes Drive North. So you've got a lot of different stables that you can keep your horses at. In Rolling Hills, every house in the municipality code, every house is supposed to have land that has a stable on it. And that's a multi-acre property that you're buying. And not everybody wants to have live horses, but many do.
Yeah. No, I think that's really a key. I mean, you normally don't see that where you have such expensive, luxurious homes, and then people are rolling around the horses.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's clean. Everybody keeps it.
Yes.
Keeps it.
We are
squirrely.
very rural.
Yeah.
Yeah, very rural for sure. Suburban. Not a lot of sidewalks.
Not a lot of sidewalks. So you can travel by horse.
Right.
In Rolling Hills Estates. All right. So let's get into the 2022 Peninsula Report. I think that as the markets have been adjusting to the, I don't want to say the COVID pandemic per se, but it was really the lockdowns.
Oh, 100%. And interest rates being so low.
Right.
And the Fed's trying to really push the economy to keep going, to not have a recession while we were in COVID.
Right.
And who didn't refinance their house or get into a house? I mean, when the rents are this high, your mortgage is probably cheaper than it is to lease out a house. And that also caused an incredible amount of buy-up. And the inventory was so low. So the prices during the pandemic really started to just surge and skyrocket. And during the pandemic, people really started spending time in their homes, and they hadn't. And I know that you and I keep kind of going back to Santa Monica, but one of the things that PV has that right now as a benefit is that it doesn't have easy public transportation. So people that wanted to get out of the city because they realized that they can't have all of their children on Zoom in one room. And when they do choose to go out to get a cup of coffee, they have to walk over people who are, unhoused. So Palos Verdes became a kind of point of, hey, is that Pacific Palisades? No, that's different. That's the Palos Verdes Estates. Okay, let's go over there and let's see what the homes are like. We can get land and we can get larger homes, and we don't have the public out there. So that really kind of caused our equity to increase in 18 months, probably double.
So you're saying that $1.5 million house, a $2 million house in 18 months doubled?
Yes.
That's insane.
It's insane.
That's insane.
It's insane. And you do have to realize in today's market, because we're now basically starting to live with the pandemic, we get it. People have, their ways of how they're dealing with it. Everybody is kind of back at work in whatever that looks like. And we've peaked. The prices are not going to continue skyrocketing at the rate that they have been. So we definitely have seen a stabilization in the prices. If you're following real estate at all, I was looking at Thousand Oaks for a client, and every email that I see is price reduction, price reduction, price reduction, because people who were trying to grasp onto those super high prices that were inflated, that's kind of gone now. So people are now, the market is starting to shift, and it's no longer a seller's market. It's trying to find its balance. It's trying to readjust, and the market is trying to correct itself so that it can be a buyer and seller market. It was not a buyer's market during the pandemic.
I think that when you have a period of instability, I think that people come out of the woodworks and they start crying, at the end of the world. I thought that when I look at this market, and I'm really just talking about the demand for construction, right? Because to your point, the people that were stuck at home, all of the things that they didn't like about their house, they weren't home, they're at work. Right. Now they're looking at it every day. Right. So we're doing that kitchen, we're doing that bathroom. I need 2 sinks in the bathroom. Right. We got this, whatever it was.
Or I need walls and doors.
That too,
the open floor plan was great for people when they weren't at home. Everybody on Zoom with their kids there.
No, 100%. I think that the lockdowns, the Zoom, that really, I think, completely changed how we viewed the use of our house.
Absolutely.
How much time we were there, and moving forward, what do we want it to look like, right? I mean, this idea, if you were to go back in time 5 years and say, hey, the government's not going to let you come out, you're just going to be a curfew. You're going to, somebody riding a paddleboard in Malibu Bay is going to get a ticket for $500, whatever.
Right.
Or arrested.
Right, for being in the park.
They'd be like, no, dude, this is America. It's never going to happen. That's crazy. That's you're talking crazy now.
Yeah, but we lived kind of.
And it happened. A lot of it happened. So now you're like, okay, that was, kind of horrific, and hopefully we won't see that again. But moving forward, like, hey, and many people had people that they knew die, right? So you're thinking like, how much am I going to put off these things that I can afford to do?
Right.
And
life is short.
Right.
And I'm living now.
Right.
So I think that definitely affected the real estate market in a variety of ways. People's marriages. Maybe we need a bigger house in order to survive this.
In order to stay married.
Right.
Or to not get rid of the kids.
Right. You need walls and doors to be able to have, if you're a family of 5 with 3 kids, you need everybody in an appropriate space where they can be like you and I are now, in a space where they can hear their teacher and, the teacher can hear them. So it definitely made a lot of people make moves. There was a lot of fear, though, I think, during the pandemic. I think that inventory was definitely low. I don't think there were a lot of people selling because of the uncertainty. So if you were already in a home, it was doubtful that you were going to sell unless you were moving out of state, which I had clients move to Texas. I've had people buy, homes in Idaho. They just wanted to get out and have space and not have rules like we did in LA. And those changes definitely happened, but inventory was relatively small during the pandemic. And I do see an increase in inventory right now. So
let's talk a little bit about this graph that you have up here. Kind of walk us through with what we're looking at.
So what that's showing you is just single family housing units completed on average annual units completed.
These are new construction starts?
That's correct. And what it's showing you is that definitely had a surge. And at this point, from 18 on, it's definitely below the 50-year average.
Well, so I was reading an article about this phenomenon that the recession of 2004, or the market crash of 2004, really destroyed the kind of the algorithm of build that contractors committed to. The amount of units that they would commit to on a given 24-month period.
Right.
So you could see that after 2005. There was a significant collapse, right, in production, and it didn't really heal itself until it didn't really gain any momentum until 2013 through 15.
Correct.
Where you could actually start seeing a little bit more confidence. But think about that. That was from 2008 to 2013. It was 5 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, many of the builders went out of business. many of the people in our industry, in the construction industry, changed industries because there was no work.
Right. But the work that you have been blessed with is people redoing the insides of their homes, of homes that they already own. So you have a lot of builders who built new homes. They're the ones that really kind of started going to different areas, right? But with us, I think you've seen a phenomenal amount of increase of people wanting to do stuff to their homes.
Well, I think remodel-wise
Right.
for us, we didn't start seeing anything significant. I mean, I survived through the whole thing, right?
Yes,
I
you
made
did.
it. So we've been in business for 18 years. However, it was really horrible.
Right.
It was really
So-
bad for a long time.
Yeah.
Like there was a while there that we would do one bathroom. I would gain one new bathroom remodel customer per month.
Yeah.
I could have never predicted that to be the case. I mean, they told us, that we could work, but we're going to work anyway.
Right.
Anyway, I have an unrelated story I can tell you off camera about
Okay.
that. But let's talk about this last slide here.
So the national home price gains continue to exceed 20%, and that's nationally.
Okay.
So that's just talking about, and it's kind of showing you in blue, the gains that people have made on their equity through this pandemic. And to kind of bring that back to Palos Verdes, if you compare from June to June, and I have where did I write it? Well, I'm going to tell you, just in the first half of this year of 2020, I have 90 total homes sold on the peninsula. The average sold price is $3,689,733, and the average days on market are 33. But if you look at how many homes were sold in June of 2021,
So hold on.
yes.
This is the first half of this year.
Correct.
This data point.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you look at June of last year, there were 18 homes sold on the peninsula, and this June there were 22. So definitely seeing an increase of inventory, but we're kind of in line based off of where we are, and a lot of that has to do with we've been so low on inventory.
So last year in the first 6 months, more homes sold or
Less.
Or less.
Less inventory.
Well, I guess the numbers make sense in the fact that if you if the market, if you had less houses for sale,
Right.
but the demand was so strong,
So high.
so it compounded 50% per
Basic
year,
economics,
right?
supply and demand.
So where the rest of the country was compounding almost 20% per year over since 2022, this has been 50%.
That's exactly right.
So double than it.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. But it's great for people who are homeowners. But it's definitely been difficult for first-time buyers. They have to start looking in areas that are less close to the ocean.
Yeah.
So a little bit more east in order to be able to find stuff. But I have found first-time home buyers condos in the range of $550. So there are some condos in San Pedro that I can find for $550. We've also gone to Long Beach. And once you start really needing to be in Palos Verdes, maybe because you want to get your children in the school district, you're going to have a higher price on a condo there.
So what are we looking at for single family residence starter home in up on the hill?
I would average about 1.7.
Okay. And where do you see that number going? You think are we going in a stabilizing period, or do you think there's going to be a decline like many people?
Not on the hill. We're not going to have a decline. I think nationally there will be a bit of an adjustment, but even in 2008 when you had the worst real estate recession, the Palos Verdes Peninsula only went down 10%. That's incredible.
That's amazing.
Right. So your money is safe. Your money is absolutely safe on the peninsula.
And so what do you attribute that to? Do you attribute that to the level of wealth? I mean, if you don't have to sell, you don't sell.
I do think it has to do with the level of wealth. So one of the biggest reasons why in 2008 the decline was so large in some communities had to do with people that were in loans that they couldn't afford. In Palos Verdes, on the peninsula, you do have a buyer that has a financial background that, on top of everything, it's very difficult to get a loan like that these days.
A jumbo loan.
Right. Ever since, well, you can get a jumbo loan, but you are super qualified for it. So one of those loans where you have unstated income or, you're financially really at risk, those loans are really difficult to get right now. But even back then, the people who lived on the peninsula were able to not foreclose on their homes. Somehow they were able to keep them. And through this pandemic, a lot of the banks helped a lot of people with forbearance loans. So that probably also, the economy was also kind of protected in regards to people not falling out of their mortgages as they did in 2008, this time because of a completely different reason, because of lack of employment.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. Very interesting. It's very rare in if you think about LA County, and it's a very fragmented socioeconomic situation,
sure,
right?
Absolutely.
You have very rich people, you have middle class people, and you have 60,000 homeless people in the streets of LA County. So to be able to look at a community that is a lot more stable, it's kind of a rarity. I mean, I think if you look at like the Beverly Hills market and maybe the West LA market and the closer you get to the ocean, where the loans would have been harder to get in the first place.
Right.
I think that is, you can find that, but such a large geographic area like the peninsula is, that's really kind of a reassuring dynamic about that market.
For sure. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with our demographics too. I mean, you have a lot of young, new money in LA, closer to the city in Beverly Hills, and sometimes that can go sideways. I think the demographic of the peninsula is just an older age, and that doesn't mean we don't have apartments. We have apartments that you can rent in Lanada Bay. We have them by the Peninsula Center in the mall. There are definitely, I have a listing right now on in Rolling Hills Estates for 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And it's listed right now at $3,250 per month.
That's doable.
You can have the address to have your kids go to a Palos Verdes Peninsula Unified School. So, it doesn't mean that we don't have hardworking people that just maybe aren't ready to buy yet. But I definitely think that the purchasing demographic is definitely someone who, they're first families. You don't have a lot of, young couples or just a young new money type of individual wanting to move up on the peninsula because it's not.
They don't have the nightlife.
It's not close to bars or
right.
Big restaurants in LA.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, guys. Josie, we're going to talk about your tips. You've got some tips for our real estate connoisseurs, so let's give it to them.
All right. So tip number 1, know where you're going. If you're a buyer, already kind of have identified at least an area that you would like. And then that gives me an idea of other locations that possibly may work for you. Tip number 2, know your price. Make sure that you're pre-qualified and you've got all the financial backing and all your documents in order, so that if we find the perfect house and you say, Josie, you need to put an offer in, I know I can make that offer because you're already pre-qualified for
ready to go.
How much you need to buy. And then tip number 3 is make sure, if you're a seller, tip number 3, make sure that your home stands out online. That means declutter. That means stage. That means make your home pop. Less is more. You want to make sure that your house is just light and bright and really appealing to the buyer.
Yeah, I think people make the mistake of not realizing that clutter and stuff like that is distracting, right?
Very.
People will be like, oh,
They're just talking about how you live rather than your home.
That's right. That's the distracting part. So cool. All right. Well, thanks for that. Hey, if any of you guys have any questions for Josie about her tips or about any of the stuff that we've covered, please, by all means, post them in the comments, and we'll make sure that we get your response. All right. So this little house here, and I say little. It's not little. It's huge. So let's talk about this your trophy listing here, and like to share this with the audience to see what they think.
Well, thanks so much for bringing it up, Alex. This is a beautiful executive home located at the top of Monte Malaga. It is a 5,552 square foot home. It has 5 bedrooms, plus an office, plus a bonus room, 6 bathrooms. It's stunning. It has a regulation college and professional basketball court. It has a wine room. We're currently listed at 5899888. Please bring your most selective client, and I hope we can move you right in.
Here's the office.
Isn't that beautiful? It's my favorite room.
That is a nice room. Hey, that's not a bad backdrop for a Zoom call.
Right? There are so many fireplaces in this home. It's stunning.
All right, cool.
And it's really single level living. And the bottom floor is really used for entertaining or a guest. So don't let that deceive you.
I think that as we get older, I'm enjoying.
Please.
Well, you know, my dad is in his 80s, and you know, just 2 steps is a problem. You know,
It's a lot.
Three steps is 6 is a big ask. So
Yeah.
you know, I think if you're looking long term and you're going to stay there, a single level house is the way to go.
The key for sure.
Joe. Every single show we have Alex's Trivia Corner, where we try and stump the audience with a trivia question. This week's trivia question is: Rancho Palos Verdes City Hall sits on the site of a former A, municipal dump, B, fallout shelter, C, missile site, or D, Indian burial grounds. So what do we got? What do we got for a freebie? We got some Starbucks gift cards for the first person that gets this right. Right on. So we're going to post that. So, hey, post in the comments below your question to the trivia. You know the answer, so don't say anything. Don't tell them.
I do.
I think if anybody's actually been down there, they could probably figure it out pretty quick. All right. This is the section that we talk about. Very commonly asked questions. People have submitted their questions. So we're going to drill down to some of our viewers' questions.
That was the drill.
Yeah. So let's go. Let's cover number 1. Number 1 is it true homeowners don't have to put their trash out to the curb in PV estates?
So if you live in Palos Verdes Estates, so this doesn't happen in Rancho or Rolling Hills Estates, but in Palos Verdes Estates, you do not have to bring the barrels to the curb. When Palos Verdes Estates was created, and it's the same person that created Central Park in New York,
Yep.
but Beverly Hills and Palos Verdes Estates, the trash people come into a required trash area that's located on your home, and they pull the barrels for you.
Love that. Look, if I get the kids to throw out the trash and I get the people to pick out the bin, I'm good.
You're not out there in boxer shorts and hair standing out
That's right.
when
That's
you
right.
hear the truck at the end of
Look,
the street.
at this point, if I had hair that stands up, I'd be happy about the
Right,
whole thing.
I hear you.
All right, so let's talk about Rolling Hills. Why are all the houses in Rolling Hills white?
So A.E. Hansen, that we had discussed before, he was the founder and builder of all of Rolling Hills. He also founded Hidden Hills, where the Kardashians live and
Right
are
on.
made famous. So he decided that all the homes had to be single level homes, as well as the exterior had to be white, and they all have to have stables.
Right on.
Yeah.
And I think the stables part, if you like horses and you don't want to live in Corona, I think PV is a good place
I've
to
been
live.
to the Norco Rodeo,
Yeah, Norco's Road is fun,
Yeah.
but it gets hot as heck in the
It
summertime.
is hot.
All right, so are PV schools as good as they say?
They are. All the elementary schools are blue ribbon. The middle schools and high schools are blue ribbon. They're nationally ranked as very high scoring schools, so they are good. A lot of the people who want to buy in Palos Verdes, a lot of it has to do with getting their kids in the school system.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so I mean, look, I never saw the shipwreck, but there's rumors that there was a shipwreck off of the cove in Lunada Bay. Is that true?
So yes, so it's kind of on the border of Lunada and Rancho, and in 1961 there was a Greek freighter ship that just crashed. It was really foggy as it sometimes is in Lanada Bay, and it hit land, and the ship's name was the Dominator.
The Dominator.
Yeah, so you can go down there and still see some wreckage.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah.
In low tide.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, so I've never heard about I've seen the peacocks. In fact, I almost had a car accident due to a flying peacock that buzzed my truck.
Right.
But you can adopt a peacock?
So right now, peacocks and coyotes are very partisan. So you've got your peacock people and you've got your coyote people. And, because we're so rural, I definitely think that the ecology of all of it is just kind of working with itself. I think there used to be a program where you could adopt a peacock, but right now with the Palos Verdes Land Conservancy, you can adopt a goat. And we have goats all over the place, really trying to help with
brush.
Yes, exactly. To help with any type of brush fires.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so you can for sure adopt a goat. Right now, you cannot adopt a peacock.
So who's running the goat show?
So it's
the
Palos Verdes Land Conservancy. They're amazing. And you can adopt a goat for a day for $100. But if you really want to make a huge impact, you start to increase those donations. And I think you can, I think a normal donation to actually help with the upkeep of a goat for year round is like $1,000.
Wow. I've seen there's like 20, 30 goats.
Yeah, you can go, when you adopt, they send you like a pin and you get to meet them. And there's some really friendly goats and you can take pictures with them. It's kind of amazing. The kids love it.
Yeah, I bet. Some little four-legged lawnmowers.
Right.
Okay, so the point of contention, this is always kind of a question. For the people that don't know, the art jury is only affects 2 different neighborhoods.
Right.
And the common question is regarding horror stories about the art jury. What's your
I think
your take on that?
I feel like it's only a horror story if you've been told bad information from the get-go. Like if you've been told that you can demo your house and have a new house up within 9 months, it's going to be a horror story for you because your realtor didn't tell you the correct information. The art jury is not there to make your life miserable. It's really there to kind of protect your home value. And they have rules. So one of the biggest things that you should do with your due diligence when you're buying a home, when you're in your contingency period, is go down to the art jury, pull the plans, look at what restrictions are on that home so that you already know what the mandates are. And it's only on the exterior. It's the exterior and the landscaping and the hardscape. We have rules of 70-30. And the areas that the art jury runs is Palos Verdes Estates, and there's a portion of Miralest that art jury does still have domain on.
Okay. I think that the overall net impact is positive. I think that it's definitely another layer of bureaucracy for contractors, for architects to deal with. But if you decide that you want to move into PV estates, you move there because of the aesthetics.
Right.
The aesthetics are there because the art jury exists.
Absolutely.
So, if you go into other areas where, I don't know, let's say Santa Monica, you can have all kinds of different architecture in Santa Monica, things that don't make any sense.
Right.
And if you don't want to see that,
right,
then I think you can appreciate the benefits of the art jury. If you're one of these people that wants to paint your house purple and you want to do whatever you want and you want to do some radical roof lines, do not go to PV. That's just not your place.
Yeah, I definitely think that, like you said, it has a lot of benefits. You're not going to go in there and put in cheap windows. You can't by the municipal code of the
you're not going to put vinyl windows in there.
Right.
No.
So that's why it's so important to use contractors like you, Alex, who already know from the beginning what the allowed windows are. I mean, there's like 5 different materials that you can use exactly with the roof. Already understand the hardscape landscape requirements of a 70-30. When a homeowner has a trusted realtor and a trusted contractor, that really benefits them a lot, because if they don't have that, they're really kind of running blind and trying to find out the information on their own. And it's a lot of information to know.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of red tape, a lot of hoops to jump.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I see this often, we're down here. We're in Torrance, right? We're kind of right in the center of our total market. So
Sure.
we go as far north as, I mean, I've gone to LA, but on a regular basis, we have customers from El Segundo all the way to this side of the hill.
Right.
And we're kind of in the middle
Right.
for a reason, because we have to go to these different municipalities all the time to deal with the different requirements, right?
Right.
So if you're building a house or you're remodeling or adding to a house and you're on the Strand, it's going to be very different than if you were 2 blocks from, behind the Strand.
100%.
And, regardless of whether you're in Hermosa or Redondo or Manhattan.
Right.
So all of this requires attention. If you hire somebody from the Valley or from LA, you're not going to have a good result. And I'm not saying this just because they're my competitors. I'd love to compete. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I don't apologize for that. But they just don't have the patience. If you're coming in from Orange County or you're coming in from the other side of LA and you're going to have to go to the art jury 3 times a month, you're going to go crazy.
Well, and the delays that it's going to cause.
100%.
Because you've already presented something to the client. The client has accepted it. You now then take it to the art jury, and the art jury is going to say, this is wrong.
This is undoable.
Right. You can't put this in. So it's just going to cause more delays. So
you got to start from go.
Absolutely.
You got to start with go.
Start with people who know what they're doing.
And they're local. Yeah.
100%.
Sure.
Experienced
Yeah.
in PV.
Yeah. I had, we did a project maybe 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now, in Beverly Hills. And we got approved over the counter. It was kind of amazing. But they don't have a scrutiny. Like I'll give you an example. One of the things that was very special about that house that you couldn't find until recently here. They had a mother-in-law's unit, an ADU.
Yeah,
that was
nice.
normal.
Right.
Because in Beverly Hills, they wanted the housekeepers or whoever
Absolutely.
helped to not live in the house.
Sure.
So they wrote it into the code. That's been a normal thing there.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking about a full second house.
Right.
Kitchen, living room, dining room, like the whole deal.
Right.
So to when I first saw that house and I went in there, I'm like, dude, they're going to make me knock all this down. And no, there was plans. It was the whole thing was approved.
Great. Yeah, that's great.
But-
Especially over the counter.
But that was the first job that I had done in Beverly Hills.
Right.
I didn't realize that.
Right.
And the reverse will be true for people that come from the outside in here trying to do a job.
100%.
Look, if it's a small little kitchen or bathroom, I mean, who cares?
And interior, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. If you're doing a $300,000, $400,000, $600,000 job, you really need like people that are hip to what's going on up here.
Absolutely, with exteriors.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about the economic impact. We've talked about the market conditions. What do you think? Do you think it's a good time to sell now, or what are your thoughts for people that have been contemplating selling?
I think it's all monopoly money. I think it's always a good time to sell. If you're already in the game, if you sell right now, obviously you're going to sell at a higher price, but you're also, where are you going? You're going to buy at a higher price. So it's always a good time to sell. You can't look at it that way unless you're just cashing out. Like you're in Vegas and you're done and you're like, okay, I'm going to sell at the peak and I'm going to go rent somewhere, even though rents are really expensive too. So I always think it's a good time to sell. I don't think you're ever going to find me to say that it's not a good time to sell.
You know, a friend of mine had a very large building. It was a commercial building in Torrance, and maybe this was about 7-8 years ago now. And he had a storefront there, and he sold it. He sold it at a good price. I think that was when commercial real estate was almost at its own peak.
Right.
And he owned the building for many years, maybe 30 years. And he opened a different business and leased out in Torrance too, in the commercial area. And he told me, he says, I should have never sold that building.
Absolutely.
And he's like, I probably paid back in rent all of the profits that I made from the sale.
Yeah, I have a client who bought one building in the garment district in like 1989 for $3 million, and right now it's probably worth 30.
Yeah. I think that when you own these assets, you don't realize what they're going to be worth. And, you know, it really, I guess, comes down to whether you need to sell.
Right.
Can you move without selling it, or do you have to sell it to buy the next place?
And definitely reinvest. I mean, I think once you're in the game, you're super fortunate because real estate is something that appreciates so many fold. So people who purchased their home for, $18,000 in 1960 is sitting on a bankroll right now that they probably never imagined,
Yeah.
and had to tighten their belt so much to even buy it back then. But it's always a good time if you're going to spend your money, spend it on real estate.
Right on. So you're what you're saying is it's absolutely no problem to sell just as long as you buy something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't,
Reinvest.
don't stay out of the game.
Yeah, sometimes you have to downsize. Sometimes you need to upsize because you've got more people that need rooms. So definitely, it's never a bad time to sell.
Okay, cool. So this is kind of a question that it's a more of a construction question. Will a home in PV require lots of repair?
Depends.
Yeah. So for some of the older houses, which there's a lot of them.
We have homes that, I think our kind of median is built between 1950 and, the late 60s. Some of the homes have already been remodeled. Some haven't. I moved into a 1977 Tudor that hadn't been touched. Everything was original. And I really, really look forward to being able to make it magnificent and update it. I definitely think that the Palos Verdes Peninsula is very unique in the styles of homes that it has. You don't have a lot of track homes. You have so many different looking homes. And I think that more than likely, there is going to be some remodeling work that will be done.
Yeah. We've looked at probably, over the last 18 months, over the COVID lockdowns, we've probably remodeled maybe 3-4 pretty significant remodels. So 300,000 plus.
Wow.
The largest one was across from the golf course in PV Estates.
Oh, gorgeous.
And they did 650. That house was it was an archive. They hadn't done anything to it. So they bought it. They held it for 6 months. And then they hired us. We did the design, we remodeled it. And we're going to be doing a series of blog articles and videos talking about how do you get a house that was built so long ago to look the same way with modern materials?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I'm talking about here is that house had no insulation.
Right.
Had no insulation on the walls or the roof.
Right.
It had no AC.
Right.
It had heat, but the heat ducts were under the slab.
Oh my goodness.
And they were all collapsed. So when you turn the heat on, you have a poof of dust blow through there. So the guy luckily had the right approach, and he invested a lot of money in the house.
Right.
So he bought it, paid us about $600K to rehab all of it, and I think he sold it, and he still made maybe $500,000.
For sure. I can see that. And I definitely think that type of investment is worth it. We had the flipping conversation, and I don't think it's super common for people to flip in Palos Verdes, but it does happen, especially when someone can see the diamond in the rough and has the funds to be able to throw that amount of money into it, and definitely have a family that's going to, this is the perfect house for them and they don't have to touch it. There are some turnkey homes in Palos Verdes that people are longing for. Some people are afraid of construction.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So they're looking for turnkey homes, but some of us aren't and don't mind, breaking some walls and doing some demo and making it all new for you.
Yeah, we ended up actually changing the roof line a little bit. We created a chase up on there. So there was a little bit of on the ridge line, there was a change in height. So we made that a little bit higher. We checked with the art jury, and they let us do it. So we ran the duct there.
Smart.
To both sides of the house, because there was an open floor plan between the kitchen and the rest of the house. So we ran the duct lines, we ran the water lines. We put a second tankless unit in there.
So it's basically a new house.
Oh, it's a new house.
Yeah.
So we bought these really cool panels. They're called Raycor because it was a vaulted ceiling.
Right.
So we didn't want to encroach on the inside exposed beams.
Sure.
So what we did is we bought this really. They're made in Idaho. I think they're made in Idaho. And they trucked it in. We ordered them. It came in 2 months later. And we basically attached it to the outside of the roof. The roof was leaking anyway, so it had to be changed.
That's so smart.
And then we put in the matching approved Spanish tiles on top of it.
Right.
And it looks like it looks like it was done like that when the house was first built.
So that's brilliant. And really just respecting the architecture of the home is really important. And that's where you're going to really find a lot of increase in your equity. So homes that just have no rhyme or reason, where you see 3 different styles inside of a home, you're really going to struggle at trying to command a really high price on that. But homes that are thought out really well, the interior matches the exterior, and there's really a beautiful flow and respect for the architecture of the home. When you're paying between $3 to $6 million for a home, that's kind of what you're looking for. You don't want to buy something that has no rhyme or reason in regards to architectural design inside and out.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. That's our philosophy. That's how we kind of stay in the good graces of the art jury, because look, it's just one of those things. If you don't want to go along with the program, with the vibe up there, that's not the market to be in, right, as a builder.
Right.
So, I think it's just one of those things that you have to decide if you want to be there. But the houses that we're seeing as the boomers are kind of transitioning and downsizing, right, and dying.
Right.
There's a lot of them that still are going to need to be done.
100%. There's an area where Nansen Field is that it's very difficult to get into that area, and many of the homeowners have lived there for over 50 years. But as just life, right, it just happens. And as you see these homes come up on the market, a lot of them really need a lot of work. So it's really important that they choose somebody like you, Alex, that can do it from the beginning, and do it correctly.
All right, guys, we are celebrating, by the way, Josie, we're celebrating our 18th year in business this month. What? On the 13th. That's our license up there.
That is amazing.
July 13th, 2004. Can you imagine I got this license and then 3 years later, everything, the world ended, or 4 years later? Oh,
you guys deserve it. You guys do an incredible job. Yeah,
we made it.
Right?
All right. Hey, so we're celebrating our birthday with a promo. You're going to get 20% off our interior design services. So you're going to spend time with Wendy. So if you're going to get 10 hours with Wendy for the price of 8. All right. So, check that out. If you haven't done so already, please check out Josie's, this is Josie's contact info here. She's got a little website that's going to be going live here soon. And if you reach out to her, you can find her on social media and that type of good stuff. Are you on Facebook?
Absolutely. LinkedIn. Just shoot me a text and I'll text you right back.
Cool. What's your LinkedIn?
Josie Balzano.
All right. Right on. Okay, cool. Hey, guys, if you want to learn more about the market up in PV, please go ahead and call Josie. If you want to learn more about kitchen and bathroom remodels, home remodel, home additions, designing your new space, we've got thousands of articles on BayCitiesConstruction.com. And look forward to that's all free, by the way. If you didn't check out our last episode, we had our good friend Timmy from the environmental company. He's a tester for lead and asbestos and all that good stuff. You can catch that on the replay on episode 55. So, guys, reminding you again, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so. Leave a comment below. This makes it a lot more fun and tells Google and Facebook that the content that you're watching is interesting and relevant. Guys, this is our little quick resume here of our team, our license number, our years in business, what we specialize in. So if you want to do something construction related, please go to BayCitiesConstruction.com. This is another episode of The Construction Show. Josie, thanks very much. And let's say bye to the audience.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
My name's Alex Rodriguez, reminding you, you don't need a contract. You need a team of pros.